Hi folks, welcome back to Prep Up with Marina. It's been some time. I'm sure you remember the last lesson that we did, which was Salvatore, and I had told you all that we would get back to the other points which are very important because we had just done the explanation of the story of the lesson. So today I am going to lay stress on the theme and the characters. Alright, so we will be touching Salvatore again, and as you know, the author of the story is William Somerset Maugham, and today we begin the theme now. So let's begin. Now, in the theme, there are three different themes in this story, and all of them are equally important. So what you have to do is you have to remember to lay stress on all the themes. All right? So the first theme is goodness. Now, under goodness, there are 4 points which you have to remember and which you have to elaborate on if ever you are asked this question. Now, goodness is one of the important themes of the story, and the first point we will discuss is Salvatore's concern for his brothers. Now, Salvatore, since his childhood, he had been very kind and he had been very, very caring. And since he was the eldest brother, he used to take care of his younger brothers. And as his duty, what he used to do was, because he loved them very much, whenever his younger brothers ventured out to the sea, too far out to the sea, he would call them back, all right? And then he would dress them appropriately and then take them up the jagged rocks, up to their little cottage for a frugal midday meal. All right, the next point under goodness is Salvatore's endurance. Now, we have read the story, and we already know that Salvatore, when he was away in the Navy, he fell very ill and he was kept in a hospital for several months. But he bore the pain with the mute and uncomprehending patience of a dog, all right? Which means that he did not complain about the pain that he was suffering from. He was happy despite the fact that he would not be well again. Another thing is that under this point, what you have to remember is that rheumatism used to rack his limbs and he would be in great pain. Yet, what he used to do, he used to just lie about the beach with a pleasant word for everyone. So nobody actually knew what he was suffering from. And despite all his suffering, all the pains, he had a very happy outlook towards life. And the third point under goodness is Salvatore's respect for the girl he loved. Now, we remember in the story that when Salvatore returned back to his hometown, he realized, when he arrived at the jetty, he realized that his fiancée, the girl whom he loved so much, was nowhere around. So later he went down to Grand Marina to go and speak to her. But it was here that he was rejected by the one person whom he loved with all his young, passionate heart. But despite the fact that the girl rejects him, all right, he did not have any harsh words for this person. Instead, he went back home. He was heartbroken, so he wept on his mother's bosom. But he did not blame the girl at all. He understood that no girl could afford to marry a man who would not be able to support her. So therefore, he never uttered any hard words or harsh words for the girl who rejected him. And the fourth point under the theme goodness is we can refer to Salvatore's married life. Right? So after the girl rejects Salvatore, he gets married to another girl whose name is ASSUNTA. Right? Now, in the beginning, we see that Salvatore was not happy because ASSUNTA was as ugly as the devil. This is what he tells his mother. But later on, he happily accepted her as his wife. And then, he still wore his ingenuous smile, and he was very kind, and he was a very gentle husband and father. So here we see that Salvatore, as a young boy, took care of his two brothers, and on growing older, he never changed, but he became a father of two sons. He worked very hard to support his family, and even during the times when he underwent very severe pains in his limbs, he would simply just accept the physical torture, the physical pain that his body was undergoing. So thus, here we can say, or we can also say that the author, he says that Salvatore possessed nothing in the world except that one quality which is the rarest, the most precious, and the loveliest that anyone can have. And that quality is nothing but just goodness. So here, this is the first theme, boys and girls. And now we go on to the next theme. The next theme is about true love. Under true love, we have 4 points again. The first one being Salvatore's love for his family, home, and his fiancée. We know that Salvatore, he fell madly in love with a girl who had very beautiful eyes. They were affianced, but they could not marry till Salvatore had completed his military service. So he had to go and serve as a sailor in the navy of King Victor Emmanuel. At that point of time, he was very, very sad, so he wept like a child. Now, when he was away from his hometown, he was dreadfully homesick. And he missed his family, and he missed the girl whom he loved the most. So, when he came back home, when he was sent back home, because he could not continue his service due to his illness, when he came home, he saw his loving family waiting for him. He looked around for the girl whom he loved, but he did not find her there. All right. After he met his family, we are told that there was a great deal of kissing. That is because they were very, very simple folks, and they cried when they exchanged their greetings. So here, under this theme, we come to know about Salvatore's love for his family, for his home, which he missed very much when he was away, and for the girl whom he loved with all his young, passionate heart. The next point under the theme True Love is about Salvatore's passion for the girl whom he loved. Now, Salvatore, as we know, he was away as a sailor. He used to, during that time, he used to write to her very long, passionate letters. He would tell her how much he missed her and how much he longed to come back home. Now, when he fell ill, the doctors told him that he would never be well again because he was suffering from rheumatism. And at this point of time, instead of being sad, Salvatore's heart exulted. He was extremely excited. Why? This is because he knew that he could go back home and then he could be with the girl whom he loved. So this is the second point. The next point under true love is Salvatore's respect for the girl. Now, when Salvatore comes back home, all right, he goes to meet the girl in Grand Marina, which is her home place. And then, here we get to know that the girl's mother tells Salvatore that they would never ever give their daughter to a man who will never be well again. So, Salvatore's heart breaks down totally. But he does not say anything. He respects the decision of the girl's parents. He respects the girl's decision. And he comes back home and instead he cries on his mother's bosom. So, and all along he never has any hard word or harsh words for the girl whom he had loved or whom he loves. And the last point under this theme, true love, is Salvatore's love for his children. Now, Salvatore, he got married to ASSUNTA and they had 2 sons. And he worked very, very hard to sustain his family, even when he suffered from rheumatism. He used to work the whole day in the vineyard, and during the night time, he used to go and catch the profitable cuttlefish. So, we come to learn in the story that Salvatore was very attached to his children. He acted very childlike when he was with them. He loved them and he spent quality time with them. He used to take them down to the beach and then he used to give them a bath and he would dip them very gently into the water and he would laugh with them and acted no less than a mother to them. So, with that, we finish the second theme, which is true love. Now, next, children, will go on to the third theme. The third theme also is very, very important, and that is the ill effects of hearsay. So, another theme, and it is rather obvious here, and it is something very common in human beings, all right? Now, for most people, the things spoken about oneself are more important than the man himself. So, that causes a lot of difficulties and misunderstandings which ruin the happiness of persons involved in the case. Now, after Salvatore returned from his military service, he met his fiancée. At this point of time, she told him very bluntly that she couldn't marry him. In fact, her parents had heard that Salvatore would never be well again. Now, on the basis of this, they had made up their minds that Salvatore could never be strong enough to work like a man. So, they decided not to give consent for the marriage. So here, another point is that, the doctors also, they talked a lot of nonsense. That is what Salvatore says. And this had also created the misunderstandings. And therefore, Salvatore's hopes were dashed to the ground. Now, he was totally sad and heartbroken. However, we see that later on, Salvatore, he begins life anew and proves that the hearsay about him was just nonsensical. So with that, boys and girls, we come to the end of the theme. Please remember that there are 3 very important themes in this story. Number 1 is goodness. Number 2 is true love. And number 3 is ill effects of hearsay. So boys and girls, now that we are done with the theme of Salvatore, we will go on to the characterization. And the first character we are going to deal with is Salvatore himself, because he is the protagonist of Mom's story. Now, not only the story is named after him, but also it intends to develop him as a character who is filled with inherent goodness. Inherent means something which is inborn. So the first point that we have to remember, or that we will deal with, is his physical appearance. Now, Salvatore, when he was young, he had a very pleasant face, a laughing mouth, and carefree eyes. His brown body was as thin as a rail. He was very, very thin. Now, when Salvatore got married later on, he turned into a very tall, broad, and a husky fellow. He had enormous hands, and they became very coarse, that means very rough, due to constant toil. The next point we will remember is that he was a responsible brother. Salvatore was the eldest of the three brothers, and therefore he was like a mother to his two younger brothers. He took care of them, and as a responsible guardian, he used to shout to them to come inshore whenever they ventured too far out into the sea. He would also dress them up when it was time to climb the hot hill for the midday meal. The third point is Salvatore was a man of emotions. He was very emotional. He had never been alone, and when he was left to become a sailor in King Victor Emmanuel's navy, he wept like a child. When he was away from home, he was dreadfully homesick. He missed his family, but above all, the girl whom he loved. When he returned home from the military service, and when he met his family, there was a great deal of kissing and crying. Moreover, when he was left broken-hearted by the girl he loved, he wept on his mother's bosom. So that is the second point. The next point is that Salvatore as a passionate lover. Salvatore was madly in love with a girl from his island. They were affianced, but they could not get married until and unless Salvatore had completed his military service. So it was hardest of all to part from the girl he loved so much. When he was away as a sailor, he used to write long letters to her, telling her how much he missed her. Now, when the doctors announced the news that he was suffering from rheumatism, from which he would never ever recover again, it did not actually shatter him. It made him very happy, as it would allow him to go back to the girl he loved so much. The fourth point we have to remember about Salvatore's character is that he was a dutiful husband and father. After Salvatore was rejected by the girl he loved, he married ASSUNTA. Now, he fulfilled his duties as a good husband and a father. He kept ASSUNTA very, very happy. And, ASSUNTA, she never ceased to be touched by his gentle sweetness. Even after suffering from rheumatism, he worked very hard to sustain the family. He used to work full day in the vineyard and spend the night catching fish with one of his brothers. And as a father of the two young children, he loved them very much. He spent a lot of time with them, and he used to act childlike when he was with his children. He used to take them for a bath and hold them very tenderly and very delicately. He used to enjoy his children's laughter and would laugh along with them. And the last point we have to remember, that is the fifth point under the characterization of Salvatore. Salvatore was a man of inherent goodness. Now, this is what the author also tried to depict in the story. Salvatore's inherent goodness, it came to the forefront when he did not blame the girl he loved for leaving him. He did not speak bad about her, but he seemed to understand her decision. Moreover, he married ASSUNTA and he kept her very happy. He did not let his past affect his present nor his future. Also, when his limbs racked him with pain, he would just simply lie about the beach, and he always had a pleasant word for anyone who was around him. So that is about the character of Salvatore. And now next we go on to ASSUNTA. All right. Now here we have to remember here, boys and girls, that the focus of the story remains on the protagonist, that is Salvatore. And now other characters except ASSUNTA are not given any names, for they are all insignificant. So you just have to remember the characterization of ASSUNTA and Salvatore. So now we focus on ASSUNTA. Now, ASSUNTA is one of those human beings who is very rational and practical. She represents what we can call inner beauty, the beauty that shines through good deeds. Now, ASSUNTA is introduced to the readers by the mother of Salvatore as a young woman who is willing to marry Salvatore. According to Salvatore, she is as ugly as the devil. Now, she is 24 or 25, older than Salvatore. She had been engaged to a man who, while doing his military service, was killed in Africa. Please remember, boys and girls, that ASSUNTA was not married. She was just engaged. Now, this is a mistake that most students make. She had seen Salvatore at the fest, and since then, she had fallen in love with him. ASSUNTA is a mature girl. She is practical and she is also materialistic. She has a little money of her own. With this, she thinks that she can win the young man whom she secretly loves. Very cleverly, she tells Salvatore's mother that if her son marries her, she can buy him a boat of his own. Moreover, they can also take a vineyard which at the moment is without a tenant. This offer works very well. Salvatore goes up to High Mass at the parish church, has a look at ASSUNTA, and then he gives his consent for marriage. Both ASSUNTA and Salvatore get married and settle down in a tiny whitewashed house. Their marriage proves very happy and fruitful. ASSUNTA loves Salvatore. They have 2 sons and they lead a very happy life. ASSUNTA, with the passage of time, becomes a grim-faced female with decided features. She looks older than her years, but she has a good heart and is quite sensible. So that is all we have for ASSUNTA. And now, since we have finished Salvatore in detail, we have done the story on the whole. The explanations were done. We have touched the themes, and we have also touched the characterization. I would just like to give you a few tips, boys and girls. You know, when you answer your essay type questions, which comes under section B, please remember to underline the keywords. It is very important to make sure that you do. And you have to read your question very carefully, because most students, what you intend to do is you just write down the summary. It is very important for you to understand the question. You need the help of the summary, but you must not forget to answer the point that has been asked. So boys and girls, please keep these things in mind, which is very important, and it will fetch you more marks. So until then, bye-bye.